Hello friends, today we're going to talk about episodes 3 and 4 of The Handmaid's Tale, 2017. At the beginning of the episode, we see one of the handmaids, whose real name is never revealed, being taken into custody and locked in a cell. Meanwhile, June is walking down the street with the new Offlin. June recalls a moment from the past when she and Moira went for a run and then stopped at a coffee shop. There they were shocked to find their bank cards had been frozen. The barista, who had been replaced with a new worker, began making disrespectful remarks toward them. Later at the office, June tried to call the bank for answers, but armed men suddenly stormed in. Her boss, Roger, announced that a new law required all women to be fired, though he insisted it wasn't his personal choice. Armed forces began to appear everywhere, but they weren't part of the official U.S. military. In the present, Rita starts showing unusual care for June, having noticed she hasn't asked for any hygiene products, hinting that June might be pregnant. Mrs. Waterford and Rita begin preparing for a visit to another commander's house, Commander Warren. At Warren's home, everyone is admiring the baby girl, Angela, and sharing their hopes for future children. June is allowed to hold the baby. The lady of the house angrily shares that the baby's biological mother, Handmaid Janine, has been overly emotional and even bit her during a feeding. Taking the chance, June sneaks upstairs to visit Janine's room. She warns her to be careful and not provoke the household to avoid trouble. Janine insists the baby's real name is Charlotte, not Angela, and shares a surprising story. Commander Warren supposedly loves her and promised they'd run away together with the baby and become a real family. On the way home, Mrs. Waterford is surprisingly kind to June, believing that she is pregnant and will finally give them a child. She confesses that she thinks the system is cruel, but insists they must stay strong. June rides in a separate car with Nick and asks about Offlin's fate. Nick advises her not to ask too many questions. When they arrive home, they find black cars parked outside, something that immediately raises alarm. Nick hints that June may be in trouble and he won't be able to protect her. June remembers the day a new law was passed. Women could no longer own property, hold bank accounts, or work. All their rights were transferred to male relatives. A state of emergency was declared. Moira planned to join the protests, while June's husband Luke tried to calm her down. Back in the present, June is once again subjected to cruel treatment from Aunt Lydia. She's interrogated by an officer asking about Offlin. At first, June thinks it's about resistance activities, but she later realizes the real reason is Offlin's romantic relationship with one of the Marthas. June refuses to testify against Offlin, saying she's her friend. As a result, June is severely punished. When she returns, Mrs. Waterford rushes to her, shocked and emotional, because June is pregnant. Aunt Lydia is stunned, and Mrs. Waterford orders the armed man to leave the house. Meanwhile, Offlin was put on trial together with her partner. Both women were found guilty, but because Offlin was still capable of having children, the authorities decided to save her and re-educate her. Her partner, however, was executed right in front of her eyes. Later that evening, Nick came to visit June. She was covered in bruises and scratches. Nick brought her some ice and was visibly upset by what she had gone through. He gently held her hands, barely able to contain his emotions. In the next scene, we see June holding her undergarments. 8 years earlier, protests against the new regime were erupting all over the country. June and Moira were actively involved, but when the situation spiraled out of control, the protesters were fired upon. Moira barely escaped, taking cover inside a cafe. At one point, there was an explosion and the window shattered. Back in the present, June visited Mrs. Waterford, who was already dreaming about how she would decorate the baby's room. She admitted she had almost lost hope, but now believed in miracles again. June was forced to tell her the truth. She wasn't pregnant. Enraged, Mrs. Waterford grabbed her arm, shoved her into a room, and screamed that her life would now become even harder. Meanwhile, Emily, formerly known as Offlin, regained consciousness after a medical procedure. Aunt Lydia informed her that she was still capable of having children, but now she would no longer desire to do things that are forbidden. June remembered a happier time, a day in the amusement park with her husband and daughter, but that life was long gone. It had now been 13 days since June was locked in her room, punished for failing to meet the commander's expectations. While exploring her surroundings, June lay on the floor of the closet and found a Latin inscription carved into the wall, likely left behind by a previous handmaid. She also recalled a moment when she and Moira were preparing to escape. In a restroom, Moira boldly wrote a defiance slogan on the wall, a risky move, since handmaids could be punished even for writing words. Soon after, Aunt Elizabeth came in to take them away. Around this time, Serena visited her husband in his office. The commander told her that one of the aunts had fled the country and shared the truth about Gilead with the outside world. He advised Serena not to worry. Rita later found June lying on the floor and, startled, dropped the tray she was carrying. June claimed she felt unwell. Rita immediately informed the household, and the decision was made to send June to see a doctor in another district. Despite the rain, June was thrilled to leave the house. In the car with Nick, she recalled how the aunts prepared them for the ceremony, a monthly ritual where handmaids are required to lie between the legs of the commander's wife during the act. All of them were horrified by this practice. At the doctor's appointment, June was told she was healthy, but the doctor also revealed something shocking. Her commander, like most others, was actually infertile. In Gilead, however, it is officially believed that only women are to blame for infertility. He subtly offered to help her conceive, implying that if she didn't get pregnant, she would be held responsible. But June refused. It was far too dangerous. On the way back, June couldn't hold in her emotions. She broke down, hitting the inside of the car in a fit of rage, completely ignoring Nick's presence. Once home, Serena reminded her that the ceremony was scheduled for that night. June pleaded not to be locked in her room again, promising to behave, but Serena simply ordered her to return to her quarters. As usual, June lay on the floor, sinking back into memories. She and Moira had planned their escape. They attacked Aunt Elizabeth, forced her to hand over her uniform, and Moira disguised herself to sneak June out past the guards without drawing suspicion. In the present, everything was prepared for the ceremony. Breaking protocol, Commander Fred arrived before his wife and encouraged June to relax. However, during the ritual, he couldn't perform. Frustrated, he stormed off to the next room. Serena followed him and offered her support, but when she tried to physically assist him during the ceremony, he asked her to stop and left. June was deeply worried she'd be blamed for the failure. She remembered how she and Moira had once tried to flee and find safety, but the cities had changed, roads were unfamiliar, and all street signs were gone. What they saw was terrifying. Books and art being burned in the streets. The women tried to get their bearings in the strange city. Dressed as an aunt, Moira asked a guardian which train was headed to Boston. June was visibly nervous. An armed guard approached, clearly suspicious. When the train arrived, June gave Moira a look, silently telling her to leave without her. Moira boarded, and June was left behind. At the agreed time, 9 p.m., June went to the commander's office. As before, they played a game. At one point, they argued over the meaning of a word, and Fred asked June to hand him a dictionary. On the shelf, she spotted a Latin grammar book and realized that the previous handmaid had also spent time in this room. June recalled how she had once been brutally punished for trying to escape. Aunt Lydia had shown no mercy. Afterward, she was returned to the common room where the other handmaids comforted and supported her. The commander suggested they meet again the following evening. Calmly and respectfully, June asked him to translate a Latin phrase she had found carved into the wall. It turned out to be a darkly humorous message that meant, "Don't let the bastards grind you down." Gathering her courage, June asked what had happened to the previous handmaid. Fred revealed that she couldn't take it anymore and ended her own life. June admitted she was also close to breaking. She felt herself starting to give up. Surprisingly, Fred didn't want her to suffer. In the next scene, June heads out on a routine shopping trip. She recalls how, after being punished in the past, other handmaids had shown her care and support. Now, June is determined. She's not going down without a fight. Dear friends, if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and let us know if you'd like to hear the next part of The Handmaid's Tale.